Indeed.
Call this meeting to order, please. If we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Alrighty. Yep. Did you give me a list of the people?
No, I can do it if you want me to.
Okay,
I have it
go
right
ahead.
here. Roll call. Drain Commissioner Christensen,
Present.
Road Commissioner Greenan,
Present.
Commissioner Ross,
Present.
Authority Member Thompson,
Present.
Authority Member Warner.
Present.
All here?
Alrighty, do we have any, approval of the agenda?
Also moved.
Second.
Item 2, if we could expand discussion to include items of interest, I think that would be appropriate, just to kind of round out different things that we might point out for the group or the group might ask about.
Under discussion?
Yeah, discussion / items of interest.
I'd like to amend my motion to include that item.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Public comment. I didn't bring my timer. Does somebody have maybe 3 or 5?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dawn
think it's
Lund.
30,
I live
isn't
at
it?
2458 North Miniature Trail in Leland. I want to thank you and welcome you for being on the Dam Authority Board. As you know, I did send you some information, just a little bit of background. I want to make sure you know I'm not here today to be an adversary. In fact, the reason I'm trying to get on this quickly as possible is we have tried to address this for a couple of years now. The level as measured at the dam in Leland. And we've had a great relationship with Steve and Jerry. Jerry, Jerry allows me to call him when I want, and hey Jerry, what's going on with the dam here? So this is not about Jerry. This is not about the operation of the dam specifically, operator. This is not about me as a riparian right owner. I actually own property on the south end, the north end, and the Leland River. This is about the court order and how historically in the past it hasn't been followed. I'm very aware of all the interpretations of the court order. The court order is very clear. It needs to be measured at the dam and maintained at the dam. Last year we got a little bit more aggressive and involved the council. That's when we saw some action. We actually got a tour of the dam. We were assured that the level is in fact too low and that it would be addressed this April. So we're looking forward to having that happen. It may seem like I'm being aggressive coming right away asking about the lake level. The ice has been off the lake for a long time. The south end, if you look at the monitors, is actually very low. Not low, but it's definitely not exceeding even the high of the court order. Typically that red line is way above that high of the court order. So I'm just here to make sure that the promises that were made in the city council meeting December 6th were followed through, which was, or at least recognized, which was there is a court order which is measured at the dam in Leland, and the court has decided that for all riparian right owners, it is the best use of the lake. Of course, you're always going to have people that want it higher, and you're always going to have people that want it lower. I'm not here asking for special privileges. I'm here asking that the court order be followed. and that the court order is met as consistently as possible. I'm very aware, I have a background in water and wastewater, I'm very aware of rain events, I'm very aware of the south end level versus the narrows versus the river. So again, I'm just here to welcome you. I hope that you can make good decisions to follow the court order consistently and fairly. And I look very forward to that. If, I did send you a link and some background information. And again, I'm not here out of the blue. I have documented information, and it's been a long process here. So I appreciate your time, and I wish you luck as you make your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning, John.
How the heck are you? One thing on your agenda I saw was, it said, see what kind of projects and stuff that we're gonna need one or two.
Just one.
And not gonna discuss them today probably, but, there's a few things that we're gonna have to do, and, I'd like to help possibly, we'll work with them and stuff, but these sensors and stuff, I got a pretty good history on those. And Rick Thompson and I could do some of this together. Now Cal sent an email that says that that south sensor, we have a voltage problem. We might have to get into that box and replace some hardware in there because that thing started reading low again. Jerry and I went and replaced the battery in it. That south sensor voltage just isn't working good. And that's a simple thing, and Cal can meet us out there. The other thing, you got that second item, maybe Jerry took care of it already, but Cal has a contract, a yearly contract, and he has to send that invoice so that you guys can pay it. He's still in Florida, I think. Another important thing we gotta do though, is, we had a motion last fall to go check all our elevations and our stakes and stuff, and we did the one at the bridge, but we gotta get Vicky and go do that south one again. Something's going on there in the south. The water is lower than the north for some reason. So, I can call Vicky, or maybe Rick and I could work it, but we'll have to have to get an appointment, and then she'll send that information. And there's a stake there, and there's a benchmark in the ground. And that day we do it, then we'll also go look at the Narrows one. And that was a big item, like they mentioned, that big item was get this lake level things reading. Right now, the south sensor is reading about 5 or 6 inches than it's supposed to. Maybe you want to get your face mask on, and we're going to go clean those sensors. That's part of the job.
Yeah, got a brand new wetsuit, so.
A big item right now, and I think it's a budget item, we got to get a proposal set to replace that walkway. I think we put it in this year's budget. That's going to take some information and stuff to send to the clerk and whatever, and get a proposal out. We probably should go out for like bids of what do you think we should do, here's what's needed, and then see what each proposal comes into without giving them a super design up front. And I can work with somebody on that too if you want me to. Jerry knows that roof of the control room is leaking, and we put money in there to seal that. And this is the time, because we haven't had any good meetings on this dam authority since last summer. We had one in the fall where we were going to do some things on the lake levels. So that is something simple to take care of. And that staff gauge at the Narrows on the bridge, that thing is off by 2.5 inches. And we need to get our boots on, take that gauge off the wall, clean it, and then set it at the proper height. And we've got good references there now to set that. So our manual readings that we saw there, so that's a big item. And as part of that court order, we really gotta see what we gotta do to make sure these water levels are maintained. there's a lot of stuff on that computer that can be done remotely and whatever, and with these gauges in place, and with the, Vicki can come in and get the correct readings and stuff, and set the stakes properly, we should be able to control that lake before everybody makes a big stink again. It's an object of discussion on the Lake Association, but the Dam Authority assured us we're gonna get on it. So, that's it. And I'm willing to help you guys anytime you got something coming up and whatever, and Rick is a neighbor and I can help all that. Go from there. I got a lot of pictures and information this high.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the action items. The first action item is election of officers. So I will open nominations for the chairman. It will require a second. If we end up with more than one nomination, then each member will then indicate where their vote is after the nominations. It will take 3 votes to be elected chairman. So we'll open up nominations for chairman.
I'd like to nominate Steve Christensen for chairman.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Okay, nominations for chairman are closed. All those in favor of Christensen as chairman, say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes 5-0. All right, opening nominations for vice chairman. Same scenario.
Nominate Garth Greenan.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? All right, nominations for vice chairman is closed. All those in favor of Greenan as vice chair, say aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Next action item is for the secretary. Nominations for the secretary. Any-
Nominate Kamala Ross.
Okay. Yeah, she told me no. We're not the secretary, we're the clerk to the board. So we don't, so Alice and I are just making a clarification that I verified with Michelle. We are not the secretary. You do have to have a secretary as the authority. We are the clerk to the board until she finds out further notice.
So we're not going to do the vice secretary.
So it's vice chairman and then secretary.
And the duties of the secretary then, if you're still here?
If we're still here, yeah, so we would be minutes and such, but it'd be if you have agreements that need to be signed, chairman, vice chairman, secretary, kind of, because it's an authority. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we had Christensen nominating Ross for secretary. Did I have a second?
I'll second.
Green, okay. Any other nominations for secretary? Okay. Nominations are closed. All those in favor of Ross as secretary?
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0. I now turn this meeting over to Chairman Christensen.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Okay. Item 1, action item is complete. We can move on to item 2, Leland Dam Authority structure discussion. So I guess this is kind of a freewheeling discussion that we can have related to, how we operate and what our responsibilities are, and we could probably start with questions.
Is there a periodic maintenance schedule for all the equipment involved with the dam?
There's every 3 years we do a mandatory inspection through the state. It's a state mandated inspection, and in your folder, there's a tab.
Item 6.
Item 6, yep.
And this last go-around with all of the dam failures in the state during the wet period, we had about 5 years of extraordinarily high moisture levels. We had some dams fail in the state, and when that happened, the state mandated that we do this page 1. In essence, we hired the Spicer Group to do estimated replacement cost of the dam, and that was mandated by the state of Michigan. So we did that last year, and then we also did, the next page you'll see is the dam inspection. Every 3 years we do a dam inspection. Spicer's been the group that's done it the last 3 times. You'll see that there was an underwater inspection in 2019, and I believe in the most recent inspection from Spicer, they recommend that we do another underwater inspection at the time of the next dam inspection, which would be 025. So these photos and this inspection report gives you a really good idea what the dam looks like. My first year of being drain commissioner in 2000, I was tasked with fixing my dam. It was top of the pile when I got to the box that had my materials in it, and we did finish that project in 06. So I had to go through another election to finish the project, but it was quite a project. It turned out, I think, extraordinarily nicely. The engineer that designed it, Thomas Perhoda, built it to exceedingly high structure levels. It's probably twice what we need per se. He really was cautious with that, and it's quite an elegant design compared to many of them in the state. It's called a crest gate, and it's hydraulically controlled. And anyway, it's a nice unit.
Steve, I've asked you earlier this month about getting out there to view it all as an authority. Can we go ahead and look at our schedules as soon as?
I think the next meeting, it would be appropriate to do a field trip.
Yeah.
I know typically when we do that kind of thing, we start here, initiate the meeting, and then close the meeting for the field trip. And then we all go to where we're going to go, and then we come back here to finish the meeting. It's kind of protocol. I was thinking that it'd be great to get to the dam itself and take a look at it, and we can be there, Jerry will be there, Dwayne will be there. Basically Jerry's right-hand man, who's kind of earmarked to be the next Jerry at the dam. That'll be a good look-see, and we'll be able to tell a lot of what's going on there. Second stop would be at the Narrows, where the staff gauge is. We did determine that the staff gauge there is actually physically 2 inches lower than the one at the dam. And they were both set at the same time, and the Army Corps of Engineers was involved in doing that. So why the one at the Narrows is now reading that much lower is a good question. I don't know if we'll have an answer, but we need to look at resetting it. It's the check. When we're doing the lake levels and Jerry's manipulating the dam, he always does the check at the Narrows too, because that's the lake level, and it gives him a good idea as to where the lake is compared to what's happening at the dam. At the dam, we're constantly either trying to capture water, so pulling up the dam, trying to raise it. Like right now, We had a really dry winter and very little snow. We had a really dry spring, very little rain. And so the manipulation of the dam to get to summer level is problematic in that, Jerry's got just a trickle going over right now, and the level's not coming up very quickly because there is so little water in the system. So we're getting there as quickly as we can. We're not there yet. Anyway, that's where that is. When we're dumping a lot of water, we've had big events, that gauge right at the dam will go way down. The river will go down. And it's somewhat problematic at times because the marina that's just upstream from the dam, if we're dumping a huge amount of water, they don't have enough water to move boats around in the marina. So that river level can go down quite a bit if we're dumping a lot of water. So anyway, and it says in the order that we maintain that at the dam. So that's our measurement. That's the only place we can measure, physically do it. And there is that fluctuation that we go through, letting water out and bringing water back. So it's an interesting balancing act, and having the check at the Narrows read properly is going to be a big help. We did go through a process over the last 2 years where surveys and residents were saying, hey, I think the lake is actually a little low here. And in reality, over the last 2 dry years, we were carrying the lake low. So it was agreed by consensus that we carry 2 to 2.5 inches more water in the system this coming season. So that's where we're heading, and we haven't gotten to summer level yet. So we're getting there. I did meet with Jerry this morning just to say, okay, Jerry, we're not there yet. What's going on? And he has the ability to pull up cameras at the dam that can show the interior and what's going over the dam. And let's see if I can, there it is. I don't know if you can see it, but there it is. That's what's going over the dam right now. It's a trickle. We're garnering as much water as quickly as we can. We're getting to summer level as quickly as we can. With a very dry spring and dry winter, it takes time. So that's where we are today. We're heading towards summer level, and we're going to carry 2.5 inches of extra water in the system this year.
Steve, can I ask, when did the ice come off the lake officially? Was that a recorded event by this authority, or?
We don't record it. Jerry watches it. The north end is the most problematic spot, up in the corners of the north end. And I believe this year ice was out pretty early on. Jerry? 2.5 to 3 weeks before.
About 2 weeks, everything was pretty much gone. I don't suggest that they could again.
So it was off pretty early on then.
Because of the height is A2, L2 this winter down, and so it's starting the level will
Right.
whatever comes later, as soon as they go or ice leaves, whichever is later, maybe 15 is later. So that's the target date to start. That'll start before, when we did that a number of years ago, and won't happen.
Yeah, so it was off, so that makes the 15th the day to start.
And
If it's not off, we have to wait longer.
and then that was done on the 15th, or?
Yeah, we started garnering water. Anyway, and that's where we are today, just a trickle to get it there.
We get 2,000 days, it's winter level, and 580 to I go to, and it was on automatic all winter, so it held that number at the 8 lower. So for I didn't have to, usually I go manual, we get a lot of ice, because I want that gate to work against massive ice that builds up there. You get real cold, severe winter, so I just do it manually to pretty much hold that level.
So, yeah, I thought, so the field trip, see the dam, see the staff gauge at the Narrows, and we can view that from the bridge. We don't actually have to stumble down the slope there, but, and the third thing I'd like to do is to get everybody down at the south end sensor. So we'll probably coordinate with John Popa. He has the contact with the person that owns the property where the south sensor is. So we can coordinate getting on that property legally to take a look at what's going on. So we'll have a really hands-on feel for where the sensors are and what the dam looks like. But that would be the next meeting, and I would recommend that we do that relatively soon. I suppose we could, well, that's item 3. We'll set that at item 3. I had a kind of a little tiny laundry list of items. John Popa mentioned Cal Killen. He is the designer and manufacturer of the sensors that we're using. He is a retired engineer, lives on Glen Lake. Glen Lake has a real solid group of people doing the water level committee and technical committee, and many of them are retired engineers. And they have grouped together, and Cal offered to put some sensors out for Glen Lake to monitor lake levels along with their staff gauges. So they physically monitor and do sensor monitoring also. He came and presented. I'm on the technical committee with him. I thought it was a good idea that he could present to this group. He did, and this group decided to do sensors. So we have electronic sensors at the south end. We have one at the Narrows, and we have one at the dam. John has done some physical level testing with a staff gauge that he installed just to see at the north end where that corresponds with the Narrows gauge, and it was very close. So Lake Association decided not to foot the bill for a north end sensor. They ponied up to do the other sensors, and we're on the hook to do the maintenance of them. Cal Killen has actually developed a business model, and his company is the one that we contract with to keep the software and the hardware in place and up to speed. We've contracted to spend $2,000 a year, and we get a $1,000 bill early in the year and another $1,000 toward the later part of the year, and that's quite a deal. But anyway, I think it's a deal. But anyway, that's in place. The budget we did put in for monies to do the walkway that goes across the top of the dam, and it connects the lodge with the downtown. It also offers a perch for Jerry to do the manual gate. The gate you see on the photo there is it's a double gate. That's where the cross gate controller is. There is one other gate, manual operated, closer to the lodge. And that one requires Jerry to be there with a pole to pull up the stop logs. So that walkway serves those two purposes. It's a metal structure with wood as the planking to walk on, and it's getting old and worn. And then the roof of the control room tends to leak a bit. So those two items, we requested money in the budget for that. Those did not make it through. So we do not have that money for this year to do those two things. They are still things we need to look at and talk about. In June, we do our budget for 024 for 24. So we'll be talking about what to have in the budget as we approach June. And we need to talk about timing of meetings and how that budget would get put together, and who would physically actually do it. So anyway, that's another thing to think about. So anyway, John Pope has really good records of a lot that's going on with the dam. He's been associated with it pre-new dam and post-new dam, and during that whole process. Plus he has contact with the private owner for the South Gauge. So I look at John Pope as a real strong resource. I'm sure he'll be here at our meetings. I know he works with Rick. Rick's been drafted by John to do some of the stuff that has to happen with regard to the sensors and whatnot. So I'm sure those two guys will be working together over time. And I look at that as a real positive thing. I'm wandering, but I wonder if I hit it all.
So you mentioned the sensor, we know at the Narrows is off, right? So
The staff gauge.
the staff gauge, I'm sorry. is-
Physical
Yeah.
staff gauges.
So do we have that in our budget to fix that soon? And is
We
that,
have, it looks like we have $10,000. So the process of going about actually physically changing that and getting it set to the proper level is going to be an interesting discussion.
Who needs to be involved with approving that process?
Well, it'll have to go through this authority, and we will decide a procedure of moving forward on that.
is there any reason to wait? I mean, I guess if we want that, to use that, we need to get it correct, right?
It'll be a great help to have it visually done. We can physically add 2 inches to it, so that, we know that we have to be up. So we can do that physically now. We don't need the gauge to physically carry 2.5 inches of water extra in the system. We know how to do that. So I don't know if there's any reason to wait. I guess I would lean toward, let's set our next meeting date within a couple weeks and then be thinking about that topic, and we can put it on the agenda at the end of next meeting, and that might be something we can check off the list as far as procedure. I'm not sure what it's going to cost. I'm not positive about, who does it and how do we make sure that it's proper, and what would be involved in that. Do we hire a company? Do we do volunteers? What is it that we need to do? Is the question in my mind, and then we just have to hash that out.
Is the gauge metal, concrete, wood?
It's a metal plate bolted to a steel beam, I would say. And that steel beam is attached to the concrete abutment of the bridge.
Okay.
But we do have the level recorder, the electronic level recorder right there.
We do have the sensor at the Narrows, and we did a calibration last fall with Vicki Brown. She surveyed in the top of the check pole, if you will, that's next to it, to make sure that was accurate. And then we did the water too at the very same time, and then we were able to correlate that to a sensor reading at the very same time. So that at that point in time, that sensor came out to be accurate. Our south sensor is wandering, and we don't know why. The dam sensor can be checked with the gauge right there. We've got the gauge on the abutment. It's across, it's on the lodge side, and that's fixed. And inside the control room that you'll see next time, we've got a representative of that gauge in the tube. And then next to that, Jerry has inches also. The official staff gauges are in survey terminology, tenths of a foot. And for whatever reason, the judge decided to use inches in his court order. So they don't match, but we can correlate them easily. It's just a matter of doing the math and having them there. So anyway, Jerry's got those up and you're going to see those. But I would suggest, let's get it on the agenda for next go.
Who is Vicki Brown with? I'm not.
Vicki Brown has her own business. She's semi-retired. She's a surveyor.
She's a surveyor.
What's the name? Land surveying?
I don't know.
Maybe.
She just.
The name of the company, Land Surveyors. Vicki's business name.
Leland Land Surveying, maybe?
Leelanau Land
Maybe it's
Surveyors.
Leland Land Surveying? I think I've seen that vehicle around.
Yeah. Yeah, she's semi-retired and John's got her on speed dial. And so we can, I think, make use of her in the future. I'm confident with what she's doing. She has very high-powered satellite imagery unit that she uses. It's I think, quite accurate.
So just as some background, being brand new to all of this, so Jerry does the maintenance, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Jerry's got, you'll see when you get there, all of the paraphernalia that's associated with the control room. It's heated electrically, and it's got a dehumidifier in it. He's added different things over the years to make sure that it keeps the correct humidity and correct heat for the controller unit. It's actually a computer system. I should mention, with regard to that, we were real fortunate to have the people around the lake that we have. One of the people that is living on the lake or has a place on the lake is Rick Howard, and his company is Pescador LLC. He basically provides computer systems for controlling lake levels at different locations, plus other stuff. And he has offered to help us out with doing the maintenance of this controller and this computer system. And he has provided the cell phone numbers of his right-hand man, Chris Hayes, who Jerry can communicate with independently. He can go into the computer system remotely and troubleshoot what might be going on if we have a problem with it. It's been very, very good for us to work with them. I think we've seen one bill only. So that's part of what's going on there. It's a computer system that can allow Jerry to go automatic. There are cameras there now, internal camera and an external camera. The external one took the shot here, and he can look internally and see exactly where those levels are. So the remote access and ability to see that has been a very nice improvement.
With something like that, like the roof leak that's been mentioned, is that causing any problems, or could it cause problems for any of the equipment inside? As one thought would be, we have so many good contractors, I know they're all busy, but if it wasn't in the budget, would we be able to work with someone that could call that a donation, or to help out, somebody that maybe lives on the lake, or just an idea?
Well, it's somewhat problematic when you go to hire somebody to do something like that. we typically have to run through protocol. And if it's a certain level of monies, we go out to bids, that kind of thing. This is going to be one of these elements. It's going to be more than $5,000, so we go out to bids.
Okay.
So,
To seal the roof, you're anticipating more than 5,000?
well, interestingly enough, there's a little step in the kind of in the middle. It's a pocket that holds water. So the fix, we have done sealing of it initially and one other time. And both times there's been, over time, it'll start to drip again. It's a minor leak. It's something that the heater and the dehumidifier can handle easily. It's not urgent per se, but it's just something we should take care of. And I think the last go, the group decided that we should really eliminate that step, fill that in, and then do another seal. Anyway.
Okay.
I think that's all the stuff that I was going to.
So to answer Dawn's concern, your answer and Jerry's answer is that everything is being done
We're going to carry more water.
to carry more water.
Yeah.
And this year, it just hasn't happened because of the lack of precipitation.
Yeah, we're, like we saw in the photo, we got the dam, the next mini notch up would close off all the water. There's just a very trickle going over it, so to speak. So
And that's not,
it'll stay that way until we get to summer level and be at the 2-inch more.
okay, now the dumb question maybe, but you can't stop that trickle? I mean, that's not advisable? I mean, no other than waiting for Mother Nature to help us out here. We're saying we have
Good
to be
question.
patient.
Jerry had it shut off completely for a couple, 3 days. There's a certain amount of ambiance,
For the
fishermen,
tourists.
boaters, tourists. The difference between that and being completely closed and how many minutes sooner will we be at summer level, I don't know. It's a good question. We'll see how it goes over the next few days. If we're struggling still, I would be opposed to closing it off for a while myself. And I talk to Jerry every day during this time frame, but yeah, we're going strong after it. And if we got to close it off, we'll close it off.
I'd like to share that I had an opportunity to go to the Crystal River with the group that's, in charge. A woman who was one of the volunteers that monitors it on a weekly basis, I guess. And I really learned a lot just looking at their system, which is totally different than what we have here in Leland. But I guess Cal's system, I got to see that online and everything. It's on the, it was fascinating. So really looking forward to seeing what we do here. So I just would encourage a quick turnaround before to set another meeting. So
One of the links that Dawn sent pulls up the sensors for Leelanau. So,
yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Item 2 is complete. Item 3, set next meeting date. And we can list some subjects that we want on the agenda also. Matt, you're going to have to say something.
Public comment.
Good.
How often does this authority usually meet? Is it a monthly commitment or is it?
The last setup, we shot for a quarterly meeting schedule. I would, I think it's interesting. We've got budget coming up relatively quickly. So I think what we're going to end up doing, Allison, do you know what the budget schedule is going to be for packets and all that hoorah?
That would be coming from finance, so I don't know what that is.
Okay. Typically, the packets go out in June. I'll put on. So I think, yeah, I don't know, we do a field trip. That's going to suck up a couple of hours. And then if we put a meeting on top of the field trip, we probably, I'm thinking we're probably going to need 2 meetings, just kind of talking out loud, thinking out loud. The field trip meeting plus maybe come to a consensus on what we do with the staff gauge at the Narrows. And then meet again with budget items. Just an idea, rather than have a marathon 4-hour meeting, do 2 meetings. I don't know, I'm open to suggestions from the group.
I'm encouraged to meet sooner than later to do our field trip. I think that we
Get
need to
that
take
in.
time to process
Yep.
before we have any good
And then
discussion
farther
about the
on,
budget.
then the next meeting will be budget, and we're going to squeeze this all in before the packets. By the time we have our next meeting, I'll have the packet timing figured out so that we can meet and talk about budget items before maybe a finance group or, a couple of us sit down and hammer out the physical writing of the budget request. It would probably be 2 people. Being there were 5, we can't, if it's 3, it's a quorum, and then we have a meeting, and we have to post and all that. If we just have a committee putting down the physical nuts and bolts of budget request, it's not a quorum, and we don't have to have a full meeting.
Until we approve
that's a decision we could make next meeting, but that's kind of the structure of it. Pretty typical for commissions and authorities to delegate somebody to write it down after the discussion is made. So,
Well, I don't think we should go more than 2 weeks now before we do a tour. I would suggest, I don't know how Wednesday works for everybody, but I know I've got road commission on Tuesdays, and you have your commission meetings.
Yep, but yeah, let's look at a date.
Wednesday,
Wednesday
either a week from today on the 3rd or the following week on the 10th.
The week of the 8th, I'm not available, so next week would be ideal.
we've got multiple meetings for Parks and Rec on Wednesday the 3rd. What about the 4th?
It's open for me.
Not for me. We can't do Wednesday in the morning, Steve, because isn't our Park and Rec all in the afternoon?
We could. Parks and Rec, I have to be at Miles at 1, so I have to leave here noonish. So we could do Wednesday morning.
Maybe start a little
But
bit
Tuesday the
early.
2nd isn't a BOC day, so, and that doesn't cost, if that looks,
Tuesday,
Not
the
good.
2nd is road commission meeting.
okay.
So Wednesday morning, maybe 9:30.
9 o'clock.
That works.
Time to have lunch.
Does that work?
Yep.
So, Allison, can you do it magically on your computer right now?
Well, we could meet here, or could we?
Yeah,
We don't necessarily have to have this room.
well,
do we,
it's, for Allison,
or we do.
this is the room.
Just for
So,
recording purposes, everything here, we
Tech record.
Just to be clear, was the next meeting going to be the trip out to see everything?
Right, we start here.
Starting here, okay.
Yeah, and then we close the meeting and go on our field trip, come back here, reopen, and then finish our meeting.
Steve, could we have a 5-minute break? I will go double check the calendar just so we can get that set for sure and then finish the meeting. That'd be
Yep,
okay.
let's do a 5-minute break. And then we won't talk about anything according to the meeting, we can just breathe deeply and talk about other stuff. And Allison will do a quick check.
And plan on at least
And then
3 hours.
future subjects, we'll definitely have staff gauge on the agenda. See if we can get some progress on that.
Steve, I would suggest we also discuss the walkway and the roof,
Okey-doke.
so we can keep moving along to try to get that into this year's budget.
Oh, 24 budget, yeah.
Yeah, or next, yeah,
Yeah.
24 budget.
Right, excellent, okay. So we have staff gauge, we have walkway, we have roof, and we have the field trip. All right. Any other comments on next meeting?
Steve, do we want to set the meeting following the next meeting?
We could.
How far out roughly would that next one be?
End of May, first week of June. Is the 31st a bad day?
Looks okay for me.
It's good for me.
It's good for me.
Good for me, too.
Why don't we do the 31st?
Do we have to check the room though?
Well, I think,
We have enough time out.
I don't know if we're going to do another 5-minute break. No, let's not do that.
Okay. What time did you say for the meeting on the 31st?
Why don't we do 10,
Okay.
if that's okay? 10 a.m. on the 31st.
And if it's not good, we'll hear back from you.
Yeah.
We being the 5th Wednesday.
Nobody would have that regularly. All right.
Rick, do you live here full time?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
We're south of the Bingham Landing, about half a mile.
Pretty close to Traverse.
Okay, thank you. That's good. All right. Gets us to public comment.
All right. I am Matt Answorthy, Director of Emergency Management 911 for Leelanau County. More of an introduction to the board. Dams are a critical infrastructure in the eyes of the state, and the dams are part of a couple different reports that I'm responsible to complete. And I think it's good for the board to be able to put eyes on me, know that I would probably need to be notified on major changes and whatnot, and also to have the board aware that we are renewing our county all hazard natural mitigation plan. In that could be projects that would be, to mitigate against disasters. So if there is problems with the Leland Dam, we may be able to apply for state and federal funding in order to get that done. The plan itself hopefully will be ratified by the end of the year. So this wouldn't be an immediate thing, it could be a 2024 thing to keep in mind, but I do want the board to be aware of that.
So are we going to have to do like a report to you or?
It'd be more so common courtesy if there are big changes to the dam. I do get correspondence when there are the inspections, those come to me as well, and the safety plan for the dam itself, emergency plan, that's coordinated through my office as well. So I get the 10,000-foot view with the inspections, but if there's, other things that can come about that the board believes could change the dam's function, operation, is property and life loss threats. And I'd want to know about it. That way we can work to add it together.
A question for you.
Yeah.
When we look at upgrading, replacing the walkway, that gets used by the general public fairly heavily in the summertime. Would it be conceivable to ask for a grant for that kind of?
We'll have to see if we can apply that towards the hazard mitigation grants. There may be other grants that we can pursue. It would all have to be all encompassed with our strategies as far as the county is concerned with hazard mitigation. Walkway, we may have to toe a strategic line with that, but we'll see if we can.
Okay.
Another, tab 7 is our emergency action plan. And Laurel pointed out to me earlier that that was done in the 1990s. And it looks like it needs some updating. Is that what you're referring to, that as
That
we
plan,
update? Yeah.
It basically, points of contact has changed on that plan, but the nuts and bolts have been in place since 1990.
But should this board look at that again? I mean, 1990s, that's...
I think that, it could be something that you think about. Your field trip on the 3rd could do a lot in order to give you an understanding of what the operation of the dam is and what can change with that emergency action plan. My main concern would be loss of life and property. So those are my two focus, but as far as reworking that plan, I'd be happy to assist the board in doing that.
So your contact info is up to date? Or not? Probably not. Who knows?
I assume that the copy that I have, I don't know what copy you have, to be honest. The copy that I have has my name on it.
I know that Jerry has kind of a short list, and we'll get that to you.
No problem. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Any other public comment?
I'll be brief. So thank you again, and Steve, thank you so much again for acknowledging the 2.5 inches that was addressed at the December board meeting, that the level needs to come up. I just want to mention, it's great you're going on a field trip. Any information you can get is awesome, but please keep in mind that you've always had the data at your fingertips. On the Leelanau Lake Association website, the sensor at the dam is measuring the level at the dam, which the corridor needs to be maintained at the dam. You have that information. You've always had that information. And the reason it may seem to you that I'm being impatient is because this has been over a 2-year process for us pumping this out. You've got this information, and the Dam Authority has always referred to this staff gauge. The information you have that can guide the operation of the dam is great, but the staff gauge is for informational purposes only. The court order is written that the level needs to be maintained at the dam. You've always had that at your fingertips. You have it at your fingertips now. It's the green line on the Lake Association. So I've been at this for 2 years with the data right there. And then 2 years later, it's been conceded that, yeah, the staff gauge is not measuring properly. So we have the data. So that's why it may seem like to you that I'm impatient. But I've been through this for years, and I would like the level to get to where it needs to be. Secondly, Tim, you asked a great question. Right now, it's not at the level. We know it's not at the level. Can the dam actually be shut off? It's trickling over, as Steve says. I have a picture. It certainly can be shut off. I'm obviously not the operator, but I have a picture of it, April 15th, where there is no water going over the dam. And now I have a picture of yesterday where it is trickling over the dam. So we're not capturing the water. I know we're working towards it, but for some reason, we've got that level where we're still letting water over the dam when we weren't before, and we're still not at that level. So all I'm just trying to emphasize is please don't be distracted by other measurements other than the court order. It's great to have the information. I understand why you have it, but it has misguided the levels in the past. So I just would appreciate if you could monitor it yourself. It's super easy on the Leelanau Lake Association website, the green line. Are we close? Are we, I'm not asking it to be perfect, but just definitely trying to meet the court order as best as possible. So I appreciate your time. Oh, one other quick thing. I'll just give this to you if you want to pass it on, that'd be great. So for your field trip, so you're prepped in time, this is actually the tube at the dam. You will see, I'm not going to get into the difference between decimals and inches, but the left side of the tube is in decimals, the right side is in inches. I've written lines for you where the level currently is at, where the low court order is, where the high court order is. I've also highlighted, you'll see a little 9 on the left side of the tube, and when you go on your tour, you're going to physically see a little red arrow on that tube. That's where Jerry drew a little arrow and where he has always kept it in the past. I highlighted that in yellow there. You'll see a large 9 with a line highlighted. That is physically written on that tube in the dam. You're going to see it. I'm believing, the red arrow is representing where Jerry's been holding it, which will correspond with the sensors. You'll see that's been low. The 9 is most likely where he believes is the high. So when you're talking, and I called Jerry yesterday and I said, Jerry, where do you have the measurement? And he said at 9. Make sure it's the high 9, the big 9, not the little 9. Just so you understand, ask these types of questions. If you walk away with anything today, just know that when you ask and when you learn about the tube on your tour, it should be something above that large 9 after April 15th. So again, just a little bit of background information so you can make the most use of your tour. So I appreciate your time, and I look very forward to having the levels come up to where they should be. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There's a lot of learning on some of this stuff. That control unit that you mentioned that's down there, when we built the dam, the contractor for that was, I think, down by Holland, some area. And it was very, very expensive to maintain it. It kept going out, and Jerry'd have to wait, he'd call, and then we'd get a huge bill. This person that Steve mentioned, he worked for the Consumer Power thing up there by Medusa, and he monitors all that. And he lives down the road just from you. And we are getting a free gift basket from him. He put all new PLCs in there and stuff, and all this computer stuff. He can monitor at home, and it's been one of the best things that's helped Jerry now forever. And that guy's doing this all for free. Where it costs us thousands every year, and the whole thing is free, so that's nothing to overlook. And you'll be able to see that on your tour. You mentioned a contractor for this staff gauge there at the Narrows that needs fixing. That's something that we can get together here when it's warm, and maybe Jerry or Flasker can come down there. You just got to see how bad those bolts are embedded in that, and standard water's only that deep, but it's cold right now. But that should be easy to do within your own budget. We don't have to go out for bids for lowering that gauge and stuff. We've already got that. You mentioned it briefly. The lake throughout, and I've got tons of paper. That lake is essentially flat. We surveyed the North Lake, put a stake there, and I watched it for a year, and it matched the stake at the Narrows, which matched the stake at the south end. The lake is square miles, and it's 18 miles long, and it's essentially flat, and it runs flat. However, you can get a storm that dumps 3 inches of rain at the South Lake, and you can actually see it on the gauges, which I'll get to. And then there'll be a flow, but the amount of water is so tiny that goes over that dam. And if you do the engineering calculations, it's essentially flat on something that's that big. So there is no bowl effect that this has to be high and that has to be high. It's essentially a flat lake. That budget for 2024, we should be thinking about that. And I don't know, Steve, if you were gonna have that on your next meeting, but we could put that as an item, and I can bring all that paperwork. We had a big thing here to go through a year or two ago, when we were thinking of doing a special assessment to it was getting close to $500,000 to do it. But the county board decided to keep it in their own budget. Now, we don't have a budget item, it's coming out of the general fund, and we just move that money over to whatever it is, 503 or something like that. We got together and say we need that much money for next year. And so I can go over all that with you if you want to hazard that item, and I'll have handouts and show you like it's going to take this much to replace the gate, it's going to take this much to paint it. You got seals to overhaul, and put that all together as a thing and give handouts for all that, and we should have an item so that you know what's coming up. Now, I did dive on that gate 2 years ago, and it's in real good shape. I scraped it. We have one seal that rolled over, and it shows up on that report, but it doesn't leak or nothing. So I think our gate's in good shape. But when we do that walkway, we're gonna have to make it so we can lift the center sections out, so we can, right now, there's no way to get to these places where we gotta put for dewatering, which is gonna be a big budget item. That south sensor though, do you want me to call Vicky and get with, and we'll get that stake surveyed and stuff? That's something.
We'll make sure that we have the south sensor for a discussion item in the next meeting.
We can wait. I mean, it's only 10 days before, but that south sensor is an item. And if each one of you want to look at that level, write down my phone number if you want to. 384-5364. And call me, and I will send that graph to you so you can put it on your computer, and then you can look at it every day. You don't have to go to the website of the Lake Leelanau Association, and I'll walk you through it. It's real simple. If you're curious and say you want to know what the lake level is, and I don't know if you have it on your graph, on your computer, but I can walk you through those steps. It's kind of nice the way Cal set this all up. So give me a call and walk you through it.
John, the next meeting is on the 3rd. Can you make contact with that owner and let him know that we're going to be there as a group on the 3rd?
Are you going to look at the South Lake
Yeah,
on the 3rd?
yeah.
Yeah, the last time I was down there, we weren't there, and I'll see if I can't get his phone number. You could go look at the sensor speed by the dam and give him a feel. I'm not sure.
We need to go south end. We need to see it as a group. We're going to do dam, we're going to do the Narrows, and we're going to do south end. So the whole group sees where that is. And
Cal takes care of these level controls and stuff at Crystal Lake, Glen Lake, and he has a couple other, he has his own business. And they sent me a contract, like at Crystal Lake, they were on some private property, and they got a contract that we're allowed to maintain it. Well, the property at the south end, that guy was fine, he passed away. So we have something there that was there when they purchased it. Whether we want to approach them and get the ability to go on it, I don't know.
do you have the contact with the new people?
I do, and it's someplace in that pile of paper.
John, you're leaving town tomorrow, right? I can go down and see and just introduce myself.
To see if they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met them, and I got their number. I'll try looking at it.
Yeah, why don't you two kind of get together on that and make sure that we can be there on the 3rd. If we don't have permission, we can't do it.
And actually, a better place to put that sensor is on the other side of the lake in that stream. But Novak's sold all that, and right now they don't like the Lake Association. It's at that park.
Yeah, that'll be a topic that we're gonna address at
So
some
you
point.
want to plan to take a drive to that South Lake?
On the
and
3rd.
dam?
On the 3rd, Dam, Narrows, South Lake, on the 3rd.
Okay, open
Okay, I'll check in with the owner if he's there.
I'll look
Perfect.
for that, I'll look for
Perfect.
that number. I think it's on my folder that says South Lake.
Okay.
Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none? Commissioner comments, any comments from the group?
Thank you.
We all have email contact, I think,
We do.
because Laurel sent that to everybody, so we can contact that way. Maybe at some point we'll do phone numbers too. Okay, maybe next meeting, okay. Any other comment? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Okay. All right.
Good education.
Put on the board and stuff, I don't know if you want.